Greetings and welcome to the Author Spotlight for the Eastern Region's Delta Authors on Tour, a signature event developed by the National Arts and Letters Commission of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. The Pittsburgh Alumni Chapter is proud to serve as the host chapter for the Eastern Region. The purpose of the Delta Authors on Tour is to promote literacy and the talents of over 340 Delta authors within our sisterhood. This literary extravaganza will be held Saturday, May the 6th, 2023 at the University of Pittsburgh. The theme, Bridges to Literary Excellence, will feature 8 phenomenal authors whose works are comprised of fiction, nonfiction, and a myriad of genres and topics that will appeal to all interests. We are proud to have the opportunity to spotlight our own gifted writers and assist them in selling their books. This event will support Black women entrepreneurs, celebrate the joy of reading, inspire our creativity, and instill a sense of pride. I'm your host, Dr. Tysana Jones from the Pittsburgh Alumni Chapter. Today, we are joined by Dr. Sonya Ramsey, a Nashville native, Howard University graduate, and also a double graduate from UNC Chapel Hill in history. Dr. Ramsey is a director of Women's and Gender Studies program at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte, historical consultant and contributor for Axios News, NPR, and The Daily Show. She is a member of the Charlotte Alumni Chapter. Dr. Ramsey is the author of Bertha Maxwell-Roddey, A Modern-Day Race Woman and the Power of Black Leadership, and several historical works, including Reading, Writing, and Segregation, A Century of Black Women Teachers in Nashville. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey, for joining us. Welcome, Dr. Ramsey. I'm so excited to have you here sitting with us as we prepare for the Delta Authors on Tour. Will you please share with us about your latest book?
My latest book is entitled Bertha Maxwell-Roddey, A Modern-Day Race Woman and the Power of Black Leadership. I am a historian, and I have the honor and the privilege of writing a biography of Dr. Maxwell-Roddey as a leader and as the cultural institution builder in Charlotte, as an educational activist, and as a national activist, and of course, the 20th National President of Delta Sigma Theta.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That's so exciting. And you said the privilege, because as a Delta, being able to write about one of our presidents is absolutely like so important and exciting, because we're looking up to these folks and to know how they've weaved and what they do in their life. And it's more than Delta. The Delta is at the pinnacle. So thank you so much for capturing her history and her story so we can learn more about the women of Delta Sigma Theta. So you've written so many books and you have shared so many things as far as history and capturing Black people in our story in this country. So what inspires you to write?
I've been a historian. I've loved history ever since I was a child, but I was told that you can't get a job in history. So I started as a journalist, and I liked journalism, but I didn't have the drive to go chase after a story and make people cry on camera and get what you need to do. And I didn't want to go toward a hurricane. I wanted to run away from a hurricane. So I just really love learning about Black women and their history. And so I decided to become a historian. So I was fortunate to get into graduate school and begin that entire process, which was daunting, but I've learned to be trained, but also to understand the nuances of Black women's history. I've been a historian for many years now, and I still learn new things. And writing this biography of Dr. Maxwell-Roddey was indeed a journey as a historian, as a Delta who had not been active for many years, to be surrounded by national presidents. It was such an aura of leadership to be around that, and to also learn how they have become leaders and how unique Delta is and other Black Greek letter sororities, where it's such a service-oriented organizations, where you have leaders who have these platforms of service that hundreds and thousands of Black women follow. And that's unique and extraordinary. The sorority is a leadership incubator. And as I was just fascinated and excited to read about that. And also, this book is the first book, a scholarly book, it's scholarly but readable, that traces a Delta from her initiation negotiation to the national presidency, to look at those things and the seriousness about the sorority, the serious business, Delta business, and learning that. That was exciting too as well. And also learning reconnecting with the joy of sisterhood, reconnecting with how Deltas do this extraordinary service, but they had a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun together too.
I'm so excited to read this book and to learn more about Bertha Maxwell-Roddey. So let's talk about your writing process, because you've written many things.
Yes.
So tell me more about your writing process.
First, I'm so excited to be a part of the Delta Authors on Tour. As a historian, we have to write things based on records. And often the records of African-American women are not sitting in the archives in the library in a box waiting for you to just home through. They were in people's basements and garages and in their attics. So a lot of it, being a historian of Black women's history, is being a detective. Who has this record? How can I find it, etc. And so it took a while. And of course, I also had the privilege of doing oral histories with Dr. Maxwell-Roddey. I'd visit with her every 2 weeks, and every 2 weeks she'd come up with some new thing she had created or done. And I'd say, did you do that too? You created the Big Sister program in Charlotte. You did that too? Okay. So they had to go back and find the records. So that was exciting to see. She's done so many things, and yet so very down to earth. Somebody else could just brag to death, and you had to pull it out of her sometimes. So that was experience. Just getting to know her as a person I'll cherish that forever. The other things was interesting was the writing process. As you do Black women's history, I'm so excited about this book. I hope people are interested in it, because white publishers, they aren't as familiar or understanding Black women's history, so they don't know how important it is. So we have to sort of teach them sometimes the importance of Black women's history. So if this book does really well, they'll want to publish more books about Black women's history. And we have them on the figures like Mary McLeod Bethune or Rosa Parks, but the other activists, Black women are doing things in every city all over the country that need to be chronicled historically. So that's another of the process. But revisions and revisions and revisions and revisions to write, because we also, as academics, we can get very jargony in the big words and what's $1 million word when a $5 word will do. So I tried to make it more readable, and that's the track I'm trying to go, so anybody can pick up this book and read it. It's also, available on audiobook as well. And I was excited about it being on audiobook because Dr. Roddey's vision impaired, so she can listen to it too. So it was a journey, and sometimes I would stop because I couldn't find records, and sometimes I'd find a treasure chest. Like I found many records from Delta from 1925 in Sora Fabette Smith's basement. I said, thank you, but it took several years for her to get to know me and let me into her basement. So it's just that I had to go on outings with Dr. Roddey when she met with her students. It was just really exciting. It's really exciting. So it's a little different than your traditional historian that writes about people from hundreds of years ago, but I would not trade it for the world, because I got to do a lot of exciting, interesting things. So it was indeed, that's another book in itself, writing about Black women's history. Yes.
Is there something else you want to convey to our viewers? Like everything we've talked about this particular book, what is the main takeaway you want people to know about the importance of history, or importance of specifically this project?
I would like people to look at Black women's history out of the categories, to look at it and through Dr. Roddey's life, to see how Black women have touched many different facets of African-American life, to see the dimensions of leadership. Leadership isn't always out in the streets. We need those people. We also need people in the boardrooms to enact the policies that the people in the streets have won. We also need people to learn, what does allyship mean? How do you build allies? How do you be co-conspirators to help you get your agenda across? I also would like people to read this book to learn about the sorority. If you're interested in the sorority, or if you know someone that's interested in the sorority, this book would be a great opportunity to learn not just the basics of the sorority, but what it really means to do a service project, to try to get that pushed through, to see the work that the sorority does, and to see the qualities of leadership that's within the sorority. I also appeal to people who love education, because it talks about the foundations of Black studies. And as we're in this precarious environment today, I hope it changes by the time this airs, but that we need to learn what these founders of Black studies, they were fighting for and what they believed in, and to help convey to people now. Also, looking at the history of Black women, we talk about leadership, but often neglect the leadership of women. And this is a great study of Black women's leadership in general, and the different dimensions of leadership, and how I say she has what's called a pragmatic likability. She's just so very likable. If you had ever a chance to be around Dr. Maxwell-Roddey, she's just likable. And she used that ability to use in negotiations. She used it to get things she needed for Black children and Black people. And that's an ability. We don't always have to be the angry person. We don't always be screaming at people. Sometimes we get things from a lot of different ways, but she could tell you about yourself when you needed that too. I saw that too. So just knowing when to do that. Extraordinary figure. It was just an honor to be around Dr. Roddey. Another thing is she never stops. She's had some major health conditions, illnesses, but she just keeps on going. She continued after her teaching to teach at the University of South Carolina. I don't even have that much in the book, but she's taught and would be teaching today if she could. So she's just so much energy and so much vision. It was just an amazing opportunity to have this opportunity to write about it. But I would love for you to have the opportunity to read it, because I think people be really enriched by it.
Cannot wait till we're allowed to buy things. We're allowed to buy on April the 6th. So April the 6th, I'll put my order in for sure. Thank you so much for joining us. And I cannot wait to meet you when you get to Pittsburgh on May the 6th. Yes. And again, we look forward to seeing you and look forward to spending some more time with you. Thanks again.
Thank you.